Good evening, Cheese Room, and welcome to the Monday night review of the shit show, swear word, 25, 16, 17 seconds in, of the Tottenham performance versus Bournemouth on Saturday. It's going to be an interesting night. I think one thing is for sure with Spurs, it seems to be deja vu at the moment. We get a lot of the same, and we're going to get a lot of the same with us tonight because this is the best form of therapy that you're going to get this week. And joining us in this group therapy session, we have at my top right, James. James, how are you doing? Student life okay?
Yeah, it's brilliant. I get my student finance in a week's time, so I get a load of money to spend. And also, I have a bunch of baguettes. Cost of living tip. If you go into supermarkets, they have bakery sections, like an hour before they close, you can get bread and stuff really, really cheap. Pay 20p for this. So there you go. I've got 4 of them. I'm good. Thanks for having me on. Lovely to be here to complain about Spurs as ever.
Good.
We've got a good show.
Good to have you on. Look forward to your statistics on some of the players in the games. Are you going to use your student finance loan to buy a season ticket?
Spurs? Fuck no. I've already got one season ticket for a football club. I couldn't pay me to go watch Spurs at the moment, mate.
All right, fair enough. Excellent. And then Monday night regular person who's always positive and pragmatic, Becky, fresh off an Easter break with work. You must be feeling fine and ready to go this fine Monday night.
Yeah, the first day back's always a bit of a killer. I think tomorrow I'll be tired, but yeah, I had a great Easter holidays. Even my positivity is waning. Taking Jack still helps, but yeah, even it's just like you said, it's like it's just from the sublime to the ridiculous. We're still getting good passages of play. We score and then that's it. That's pretty much all we're allowed. We're allowed about 10, 15 minutes at the moment, and that's about it.
Yeah,
but the season's nearly over.
Yeah, and then we have my bottom left, the voice of all positivity. You can never get this guy upset or angry. He's so positive about everything Spurs. Gibbo, how are you doing?
I'm fine, mate. I don't think I am negative. I just think I'm realistic, mate. And yeah, mate, I'm glad to be on. Try and get some of this off my chest. I'm sure everybody else is as well. I've listened to all the other pods that I usually listen to and a couple of YouTube shows and that, but what an absolute pile. Let's get into it.
Yeah, it is a really bad pile of poo. Let's start then. Let's start with the game. And the inevitable place. Excuse my cat tonight. He obviously wants to be on YouTube in front of everyone listening tonight. So I think he's going to keep walking back. Albie.
Oh, Albie.
Yeah,
Albie the cat.
As an Albert. Albie the cat as an Albert. But he's a right pain. So we'll start with the lineups. Always good to start with the lineups. Becky, there's never any differences there. But Becky, walking into the stadium, walking down to the stadium, any surprises in that lineup for you?
No, I think the one thing we're sure of, unless there's injuries after a win, the team stays exactly the same. He said again earlier, hadn't he, about not being able to change it and not going to dabble with formation. So yeah, it was pretty much a given. We were in the ground quite early this week because me and Jack waved a flag. So we waved the Sonny flag in the south stand. But then, of course, we got in and it was delayed. There was a car fire, I think, on one of the roads on the way in. So we then had to endure even longer. But maybe it was a ploy for people to buy more food and drink, which they didn't do. They just stood and grumbled and moaned instead.
Yeah, true. Gibbo, is it getting boring now, these lineups?
It wouldn't be boring if they were playing well and winning, would it? But I mean, it's as I think we all knew if that was going to be the lineup. We all know we'll play 3 at the back. We all know, with midfield, he's not going to put Sarr in there, is he? So you're going to be stuck with Skipping, Højbjerg, pottering around in the middle of midfield. So, no surprises, mate. No shocks. See it come up on your phone and you're like, yeah, that's it. So that's all there is to say about it, isn't it, mate?
I know.
It's as dull the team selection is as dull and boring as the football on the pitch.
Yeah. I mean, there's not even any debate, is there, James, about what the lineup's going to be now? We all know exactly what that lineup's going to be and the formation.
the same week in, week out. It never changes, does it? I mean, Danjuma's on the bench. He came on, but nothing. No, it's always going to be that formation with the current players available. It's going to be that formation, those players. Maybe it's Davies a long way. Maybe that's the only change that ever happens. It's going to be that. I don't even look at the lineups before games now. It's just I know what it's going to be.
It might have to change next week, mightn't it? Now that Longley, if Longley is injured, so we might get a change for Newcastle.
Sanchez will play.
And as that was proved later on in the game, which I'm sure we'll come on to, you can't change a game by playing some of our other players, can you?
Which is possibly why the formation and the players are always the same.
Well, you see, I've got a solution for this, right? What we do is we go down the local pub, fans pub, right? We do a raffle, right? And the fattest, baldest bloke in there, he starts for us at centre-back next week against Newcastle. Because I guarantee you, he'd do a better job than Davinson Sanchez. Because, he might get sent off after 2 minutes for a 2-foot challenge, but you could tell he'd give 110%. There you go. That's what's going to happen. Because then we can stay with the same formation. Because apparently playing more than one formation is impossible. Pep Guardiola stuff like that.
Yeah, we'll get into that, I'm sure.
Yeah. On the lineup, do you realistically think that if we didn't have the injuries, who are out injured realistically, do you think could come in and realistically change our fortunes or see us playing better? Is there any other options for him, even with those that are out?
Davis did okay, didn't he? The bar's fairly low, isn't he? But Davis had some kind of half decent games, didn't he? But not really.
Davis for Perisic.
Yeah, I think we had games, didn't we, where Davis and Longley both played together.
Well, if Davis and Royale were fit, you'd like to hopefully think that they could go 4 at the back. Couldn't you? Because obviously I understand that a lot of people want to see that, but we haven't really. Porro could possibly play right back, but we haven't really got a left back at the moment, have we? So that is probably what is restricting them from playing that. But yeah, if everyone was fit, you could change that formation, but it is sort of tough at the moment. But you're just thinking like when Sanchez came on, and we had when Longley went off, could we have really gone to a back 4, or could we have put Sarr in an extra midfielder on and just gone? I don't know, mate. It's just getting to a point, isn't it, where it's like we could do this, we could do that, we could try that, but it ain't happening, mate. We ain't changing nothing. Nothing has changed. We've sacked the manager and nothing changes.
I have to say, I was quite surprised Kulusevski stayed on when we saw that Danjuma was coming on. I know it was a bit of farcical with Sanchez and everything, but I was surprised that he, at one point we had Son, Kane, Charlison, Kulusevski, and Danjuma on. That was quite fun for that sort of 5 minutes. It was carnage at the back, but that kind of side of it was quite fun. It really was, wasn't it? And it bust.
Yeah, it's shit or bust, and it was bust. But I was talking to the lads earlier, and I said, I rewatched the extended highlights, and even though we went for it, the individual defending for that third goal is horrendous. No matter what system you put in place, like Porro, and then I like Højbjerg, but some of his individual defending and bits and pieces during that game was shocking, absolutely shocking. It's just like. We'd probably jump in the gun, Craig. Sorry, but yeah.
No, not at all. No, not at all. There's no right or wrong way, is it? The point is, it's a shambles, and there's no right or wrong way to dissect it. But just on the Porro thing, Porro, as the game went on, got a lot of criticism on social media after the game. But my question is, we all clamoured for Porro when we signed him to start games when Emerson was continuing to start. Now, if Royale's fit for the next game, would you want him to see him start at right back or right wing back? He's
like the opposite of him. So Royale is a better defender, but can't really do anything going forward. Can't cross the ball. Doesn't know look passes that go out and that sort of thing. And then you've got Porro, who does like bombing down the wing, likes to put a crossover, looks quite busy. but can't defend, can't get back. You know, he was done so badly for the second goal. Yeah, so they're not. We don't ever seem to buy a complete player. It was by bits of other players and bits. Do you know what I mean? Even Davis is like, there's some bits he's better at, and Dyer's not. Maybe Romero's not as good in the air. And do you know what I mean? We never. It's because we don't recruit, do we, as well as we should? So there's always bits lacking. The only complete player we've ever had, and that's Kane.
I mean, one thing before, like with Porro, like we sort of knew he wasn't a strong defender, but he played in a team, Sporting, which I can guarantee you, we've played them twice, and I bet if you've watched them more, are more possession based. So they sort of defend by having the ball and being higher up the pitch. He doesn't really want to be having the ball on the edge, just outside the edge of his 18-yard box. He wants to have it up the pitch and bodies who you can pass it to and people you can play 1-2s with. I mean, our passing is like our ball retention is atrocious, isn't it? And obviously that's not justifying him losing the ball for that first goal, but he's an attacking wing back who's likes to play in a more possession-based team. So
he's also a lot better when he's got Romero next to him. Yeah. I think if we go back to Leicester when he had Tanganga, and then for a fair chunk of Saturday's game, he had Sanchez. That's the trouble. It's that side of it as well. So he's not even got a consistent person next to him because he is still new and there's a language barrier there. And
he wants to play on the front foot, doesn't he? He wants to be higher up the pitch. Simple as that. He's an attacker. He's an attacking player.
Yeah. That all said, Becky, I'll go to you first because you was in the ground. We started brightly, didn't we? First sort of 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah. I thought it was very quiet in the stadium. I said off air, it was weird because it was the end of the Easter holidays. There were a lot of families there, a lot of people that were buying half scarves. You could tell it was their first game. So the atmosphere was very kind of quiet and flat, not particularly toxic, just very quiet. But yeah, Spurs were reasonably front foot. They should be. It's Bournemouth. It's not like we're playing somebody complicated. So yeah, we were. And as soon as Sonny scored as well, I was thinking of Davo. I was like, Perisic passed it to him. But from then on, Perisic was dreadful. He couldn't, he did corners that he couldn't make first man and crosses that went straight out. And him and Oibia were arguing so much. But yeah, we did start brightly. And, you think once Son scores, you think we're going to kick on here. But then we go back to tight. And when Stellini said in his post-match, and Conte said the same thing, that it isn't something that they tell the players to do. I saw a really funny tweet yesterday and they were saying, well, if the players are not doing what they've been asked to do, surely then something needs to happen and they need to all be sacked or something. Because are we really supposed to believe that every single time we go in front, this kind of lack of urgency to get the second goal is just accidental? It can't be. So yeah, it was great to see an early goal, but it wasn't as relentless as Brighton. Brighton had already had chances before their equaliser. Bournemouth wasn't quite like that, but it's just their manager said, didn't he, the amount of possession that we had, it felt like we were the away team. We were playing counter attack, and that's where the crowd just watch it very sort of meh. It's nothing to kind of get them going with, and it just, again, it was such a shame we didn't kick on.
It's crap.
Gibbo, you've said a few
James.
Times.
Sorry, Craig.
I will come to James, but I want to quote something you said previously. Sorry, Gibbo, that's what I'm coming to you. You've said previously about the issue of us sitting back, going into that low black and being passive off the ball. You think it's a historic thing whereby the players have just been doing that for so long now. It's just naturally ingrained into them. So it is, you've got. Do you reckon the fact that Stellini's coming out and saying to the players, or saying we're not asking the players to do that, do you think that's evidence from what you said previously, or do you think it is a bit tactical as well?
My take on it now is, we have for 4 or 5 years now, we've played defensive, low block, counter football. Don't know if that's what happened on Saturday, if that's like the symptom of it. But for me, when a coach comes out and says it's not a tactical thing, the players have got a habit of doing it. Well, you've been there a year, 18 months, mate. Fucking coach them not to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Teach them not to do it. That's your job. Your job is to coach these players, get into their heads when you need to, and however that works, coach players and make sure that they don't drop. Talk to them as a team. This is the bit I said to you and John in the week. What must they be doing on the training pitch all week? What are they teaching them on that? What are they doing on the training pitch? After, nothing changes. We played Brighton and got out of jail, and then we do that this week. They drop after they go 1-0 up. The football's always the same. There's nothing different. What is going on the training pitch? Nobody is anything.
He looks. I know he looks a bit out of his depth, Delaney. I think. I know we keep speaking. Sorry, James, but you butt in if you want to say. We felt that kind of optimism that we had like before Sheffield kicked off. Maybe around Preston and the Marseille game. Is that he seemed to speak quite well. There was lots of fist pumping but now he seems to just look a bit lost, and I think the players are picking up that he doesn't obviously know what to do to change it and how to change it, and he looks a bit. Selene looks a little bit forlorn.
I'm going to quote him here.
Go on, James.
This is, I think, after the City game. Quote: "I want Antonio back." Now, whether they're lovers, I don't know. But he obviously doesn't feel confident in leading. I mean, I'm not saying that maybe Ryan Mason would do a better job because he's mates with them all. It's just fucking shambolic, isn't it? Like I put it in. You could get a random fan, like you could pick someone.
Kevin the YTS boy. Stop cleaning the boots and come and coach this lot for a couple of hours.
Do a football manager competition, right? And find whoever's really good at football manager to coach the team for a week. At least you see some interesting,
This is what it's got to, though. They left all their backroom staff there.
Nothing changed.
I don't know why we expected anything to change. Yeah,
it's right. It's like having. Okay, I don't know what's a really bad illness. Cancer, right? Apologies if this is a bit graphic. It's a bit like having cancer, getting over it, and then going back to smoking 60 a day, innit? A little bit. Okay, brilliant. You don't have it anymore, but probably going to get it again, aren't you? That's what getting rid of Conte, but not getting rid of the backroom staff is. If you want to make the change, you kick them out, or you at least kick some of them out. And okay, if we aren't going to get a proper manager until the summer, which is a mistake, at least we say Mason's in charge, because at least I'm not saying he'd be a better manager. My point is, it would be a change, right? And I think the players like him. Right.
The whole point, James, of changing manager is to change your fortunes. That's why you do it. 9 times out of 10. But you want to change the fortunes of the team. Something needs to change. That's why you change the manager. So we replaced our manager with just a carbon copy of him, but who's not even as good as him. That's what we did. And it was like, nobody can tell me that even if, I know that this was muted in it, this sort of, but like people were talking about Redknapp coming in with Mason. I couldn't see that working. Redknapp's been out the game a long time. But even Mason doing all the coaching and all the tactical bit, and Redknapp in there, just getting in their ears, go out there and run about a bit. You're a better player than them. Go and express yourself, have some fun or whatever. That would have sparked some sort of, you'd like to think even that, that's some of the players might have been like, I quite like that. I feel good about myself. And probably gone out there with those 10 games to go and got better results. Because now we've just done nothing and left it the same. And we are literally on the verge. We're pretty much out the top 4 race, aren't we now? We're going to blow it. But we're literally on the verge of even not finishing in the European places if the next week goes how I think it will. And that comes from the top. That is terrible, terrible decision-making from the top.
A lot.
Sorry, James. I was just going to say, the possession thing, or the way that we're playing, and the way that when we seem to score, we go back into this low block and passive style. Do you think, James, some of it is linked to the fact that we play a formation whereby we're consistently outnumbered in the midfield, and actually even a simple tweak to a 3-man midfield, whether that's 3-5-1 or whatever it is, 3-4-2, whatever we're going to play, a three-man midfield anyway, 3-3-3, whatever. You get my point. Anything but what we're playing would help us better. Sorry, I'm having a mental block then.
It's a combination of things, isn't it? Right? I mean, Bournemouth played the same formation as us at the weekend, right? Secondarily, our players have been conditioned by the past several managers, Conte, Nuno, and Mourinho, to play the style, and even towards the end of Pochettino, because our centre backs had lost their legs. Vertonghen and Alderweireld had lost their legs, so we played more defensively because we couldn't play a high line. You can't play a high line with defenders who can't run, right? So for the past 3-4 years, we've played like this. The players have just gotten used to it. Stellini said, "I'm not telling them to drop back and play like this." Okay, let's say he's correct, right? I'll take him at his word, right? Well, it's the coaching conditioning they've had for the past few years. Even if you said, right, lads, 4-3-3 Gegenpress, right? No defending, beat every team 7-6. Players that aren't used to that. That's what it is. It's going to take a massive mentality shift to move away from that. That's what it's really going to require. I mean, we have things we can do with the players we have. We can change formation. Hell, we can do what City and the scummy other Red London team do and play an inverted fullback, couldn't we? We could try. There's things you could do, right? And even if you did bring in Redknapp, a lot of football and a lot of any sport is confidence. If you just brought in a guy to amp up the players and just say, because the teams we're dropping points to, we are player for player better than. If you just had a guy who was like, right, not very many tactics. Look, let's be real, lads. You're fucking better than them. They're shit. Just go batter them. Go for it. Play football. Play for yourself. If we're struggling, we'll try change a few things, but just go for it. Guarantee you, we've done a bit better. But sorry, Gibbo.
Yeah, I think.
But it's like Becky will probably agree. Obviously, I like Højbjerg as a player, but he's been atrocious lately. He's dead on his feet. Sarr's on the bench. Sarr went to Milan, had a good game, proved that he can play at a high standard. Give him a game. Try and change it. Højbjerg and Skip have been. I know Caller will probably get upset because he thinks Skip's the next come in. They've been dreadful. They are not a good pairing. They've been woeful. They're not playing well. Like I said, Højbjerg is like dead on his feet. Bring some different players in. Just put a bit of different impetus. But no, it's the same old, no matter what. Yeah. It's frustrating.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting point that Hotspur Sam's made, actually. I'm not sure quite the numbers are right, but the principle is right. When Conte came in, obviously, he brought with him pretty much a whole team of fitness coaches. There's only really him and Stellini and Mason, if you like, they've got any sort of tactical working with the players. Obviously, he had his brother who's left with Conte, who was the analyst, wasn't he, of the of opposition teams. But it's a really good point. So, Conte always worked in a way where it was his way or no way, wasn't it? He orchestrated everything that the players done, every single run that the players moved, the passes that they need to make. And you can see that clear as day in the touchline when we watched him in games. Him obviously going now, who is that tactical? Who are those tactical people in that backroom team? Now Conte has gone. Who can look at this and go, we can do something different? They're not there.
Which is why it's weird that they kept the backroom staff. You think if they were, just because even, I don't want us to compare us to Chelsea, but even Lampard has come out today and said the team aren't fit enough. The team that's here isn't fit enough and they need to get fitter. And you're like, why? He's only been there a week and he's already sort of saying this needs to change. And good for him for having the guts to say that. Stellini hasn't really come out and said anything. He's just sort of doing the same thing. And I think that's what's happening is he's getting found out, and he's getting found out against some really poor teams as well. It'll be so interesting. And a lot of people are saying we aren't going to get any points out of the next 3 games. But, if we fluke a decent, like 1-0, everyone will think everything's brilliant again. And it really isn't. So I just think that's why they should have just got rid of everybody and just got somebody, one person in, or got, bring Yara Toure forward, get Defoe involved. There's people within the club that could have stepped up. It didn't need to be this. not trying to defend them, but I'm assuming they felt that it would be a better continuity. But what we really needed was a complete clean out, just like you said, to improve morale and get some momentum going, get some confidence back.
Yeah, I mean, Liverpool are thraping Leeds here 4-1. Yeah. Right, we've got Villa soon. They took Newcastle to the cleaners. Newcastle are going to be like a wounded animal. United on the front foot the other day. What I've seen of Spurs, if those teams turn up in the mood they've been in their last few games, they'll take us to the. We haven't got it in us. We don't have that energy or that belief or that desire with the players on the pitch or the coaches on the sideline, by the looks of it, to fight that, to combat that. We'll just dig in, try and hang in there, and then they'll just break us. And we can't even go low. We'll go 1-0 up and sit back and hold on to it because we can't even do that now.
I just read Kerry's comment.
Sorry, this comment just made me laugh. I'm just imagining Harry Redknapp with a huge bottle of ketchup in one hand and a chippy van behind him and just walking up to the training ground and be like, "You look hungry, lads. We got some... Get some chips in you before the match."
But when everybody spoke about getting rid of Conte, the press and all the other bits and pieces you listen to in the media and stuff were under the impression that they'd all go, weren't they? And that Mason would be in charge. And I was like, I don't really want that. But if that's what it is, that's what it is. At least he'll probably try his own thing like he did when he took over before. And we'll do all right at home and struggle away. But like the decision to keep Stellini is just baffling. And now I think every man in his dog is saying that why have Spurs done it? What were they hoping to achieve? What are they thinking? And I think, sorry, Beck, just to finish, I think that is what none of us can fathom. What are the board thinking with anything they're doing at the moment?
He's just said the same thing about how Hodgson's come in and the things that he sort of said, and he felt that the players were very kind of still stunted, and he's freed them. And everyone knows that Palace have got like a young kind of attacking kind of team, and he's let them do that, and that's all we need. We've got the players to do it. It's just this continued stubbornness that we saw from Conte, and now we've got Stellini doing it. I really thought that he would bring something a little bit more positive. You know, we did, like I said, we did see it in snippets. And it's like you said, the games that are arguably winnable, we've lost leads in, or we've just been really poor in, and now we've got 3 really, really tough games. It could be a cricket score.
With Beck, we play 3 at the back, and the left-sided centre back is out. So I know we'll probably come on to him in a minute, but you either stick Sanchez there or Tanganga.
Yeah. We'll get to that. Just at this point, 80 people watching us live as we speak, and we've had 20 likes or so. So if you're watching, please, as you're watching now, click that like button. Yeah, it takes you 2 seconds. You could have done it by now. Give us a like. It's so important to help us with the channel. Like, and even better, graft. Like and subscribe. It is hard graft. We're here having the chat. If you don't like what we're talking about, and you want us to talk about something else, put it in the chat. Tell us what you want us to talk about, and we will absolutely talk about it. So please do like, please do subscribe. 90 of you watching now, so we want to see 90 likes, please, and subscribe. 5-1 now, is it?
Yeah.
Everybody, we watched it on a bit of a kind of slower stream, so I'm reading the scores, but you'll hear the cheer in about 40 seconds.
Can you imagine the joy of watching like how Villa played at the weekend, or how United were away at Forest, or Liverpool tonight? Can you imagine that? I feel like we've forgotten, even though it was this at time last year we were doing. I think
we said last week that's why those of us that watched the Wrexham Notts County game enjoyed it so much last week, because we'd forgotten what end-to-end stuff was like.
So going back to the game, sorry, I know I've got to do this. We've talked about the point. The first 40 minutes, we played well. We got the goal through Sonny, assist from Perisic, and then on the 35th minute, Lenglet got injured and was replaced by Sanchez. James, was that the turning point of the game?
What, bringing on Davinson Sanchez?
Yeah.
Could have just not subbed him on, couldn't you? Like that probably, in hindsight, of course, it's easy to say, captain hindsight and all. When you look at Davinson Sanchez's performance, right, do you want to hear the stats? He played 23 minutes. He attempted 2 tackles, didn't win either of them. He got dribbled past once. After that, they scored. He only won 2 ground duels, in other words, not full-on tackles, but times when he tried to dispossess someone. And he was at fault for both 2 of their goals.
I don't think he was at fault for the first, mate. I think he looked ridiculous when it got stuck under his foot and then a bit of a duff pass. But, mate, that
was right in front of me, though. Porro's over there. Porro loses it. It comes past Sanchez. Sanchez is completely out of position, is then chasing the guy. You know, like when kids run after someone who's really quick down the wing. He'd run off and Sanchez is trying to catch him up.
As well, hasn't he? I mean, like, Højbjerg's just stood there. He's gone. It's just that all of them are bad. It's bad defending all around. I know Sanchez isn't a good defender, and you're right, Beck. He was probably slow to react, but like Porro's
his positioning was wrong. Porro did him, but his positioning was wrong, which meant he couldn't, even when he was running after him, he couldn't tackle him because he knew he'd foul him, it'd be a penalty. There was nothing he can do. That's what made it look so poor, because it just didn't like he knew what he was doing, and that's what a lot of people say is that people were going, he's like Bambi, and he just looks a bit lost, which is it's so different to last year. I still remember North London Derby. We were spent most of the weeks worrying about Romero being suspended for the North London Derby. He didn't even play because he was injured, and Sanchez stepped in. And yes, we were playing a different style of football where we were more attacking and we weren't sitting deep. So that's why we've talked on here how Sanchez got us through at the end of the season. He did play a run of matches. If someone gets injured, you do have to drop in and be amazing. I can still remember that air kick from Longley at the Man City game. I was there, and that was horrendous. So we know what happens when they have to drop into games, but they are Premier League footballers and they get paid a lot to do it. And unfortunately, it's that kind of cynical that this is what needs to happen. It's just it happened very quickly twice for Sanchez, which why he needs to go off again.
But that's the thing, right? I remember a season under Pochettino where Davinson Sanchez was, from my memory, correct me if I'm wrong, young memories, where he was quite good for the entire season.
It was his first season, and I think, if I'm right, was it Toby was injured for the season? Or was
he had Toby one side of him and Alderweireld the other, didn't he?
Yeah,
Toby
they played
the other.
For Tongan, one of them was injured though, wasn't they? They played in the back 4. It was Toby or someone in the chat will tell us. Yeah. One in the chat will tell me it's one of Toby or for Tongan. It's his first season, and he was phenomenal.
But I remember as well in the season when it was a back 3, he was very good in that season as well. I remember Harry Winks being very good. Football players don't forget how to play football. I think a lot
Winks
of it
probably had Dembele with him.
I remember, yes, a lot of it, confidence. I think a lot of our squad have had their confidence shattered, and I get they're paid a lot of money, right? But they're still people. Having a lot of money doesn't change your, psyche, does it, right? They've had their confidence fucked by Mourinho, Nuno. Well, I don't think anyone paid attention to Nuno. I wouldn't pay attention to Nuno. He's like a fucking substitute teacher, isn't he? And Conte. I think that's what a lot of it is. And at this point, their psyche's so fucked, What can you do? But that's what it is.
We keep the ball at obviously that goal, but we obviously try and play out from the back. And Sanchez is not good at that. Hugo is not good at that. Do you know what I mean?
Romero wasn't very good at it on Saturday. There was a couple of times Romero gave it away, and I turned to Jack and went, "Oh, hello! If Romero can't do it, we are in trouble."
Romero just plays like a guy. Is a good player, but he just at the moment he's half-assed, isn't he? Like the rest of the team, he's very blasé about.
Like we said last week, though, I think it comes a bit from Forster as well, because Forster was better at playing out the back, and with him not being there,
if Lloris can't do it,
you've got like 6 or 7 of them.
Yeah. But like Forster was better at playing out the back than Lloris. Yeah. He was. Is he a better keeper? Not sure, but he's better at playing out from the back, and he's done all right for us. The minute Hugo's fit, Hugo comes back in the team. So many issues at Spurs. And the Hugo issue is that too many people are guaranteed their place in the team. They're guaranteed. There is no fear of those certain players not playing, or Hugo's just come straight back in and Forster's done all right. There's what competition enhances performance. And for some of those players, there is no competition because they just do not get changed or rotated. And there's just a feeling at Spurs of just, like I keep saying about, I've heard it said on another pod before that like Dyer, people like that, they're just used to what's happening at Spurs now. They're used to it.
Which is why they don't go as well. So everyone's saying about they've been here a long time. And the rumours about Dyer signing the next contract extension is that, Sanchez, why would he go anywhere else? If he's enjoying it, and I don't want to sound like Davo here, but, the facilities they've got and the luxury lifestyle that they have, what would make them want to go somewhere that, if everybody's pleased and wants them to stay, then, you kind of see that. And that's the problem. That's that kind of, that sort of almost like a rot that's got in that there isn't this competition for places. And it is frustrating when Richarlison and Danjuma, and they come on and they're so lively and they're running around all over the place and really getting stuck in. And everyone can see that. And we had that a little bit with Hill when he used to come on. That's the thing that's frustrating, and getting that kind of toxicity coming because people are like, they come on and they look like they want to do something, they want to make a difference. Yeah, I think if Mora hadn't been suspended on Saturday, he'd have come on instead of Danjuma, and that goes back to that kind of hierarchy thing, and that's silly. Players can't play themselves into the team.
Like the Lucas Danjuma thing is baffling. Danjuma came on against Preston, did all right. Couldn't get another game. Lucas come on, was his usual, self in all those games, gets sent off. They brought Danjuma on Saturday, and he was lively, he was sharp, he was positive, he was hungry. He wanted to make something happen.
He's trying to get the crowd involved.
Yeah, and we've wasted that. Over the past 3 or 4 weeks when we've had the chance to play him, we've wasted that urgency. We've needed a spark. We've needed somebody to try and change our fortune, somebody to get fans off their feet, somebody to change things. But they've kept him on the bench to bring frigging Lucas on, the bloke who's leaving at the end of the season. What is going on?
Conte and Stellini have both talked. Conte, when he was here, and Stellini, in some of his subsequent conferences, has talked about this player hierarchy, hasn't he? And he says about there's a hierarchy amongst the players, which I guess feeds into the point, Becky, Gibbo, you're saying around these squad players, the ones that aren't in that 11, they can't do anything to play themselves in because there is this perception of hierarchy. So are we surprised when players come on, or they're not necessarily, playing to the best of their potential, because they know whatever they do when they come on, they're not going to start the next game?
So when Conte's saying about this hierarchy, is he saying that he's choosing the hierarchy, or there's a hierarchy by the players and we've got to adhere to that? What's he trying to say? Because it's his job to make...
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a good question, but I'm guessing it's what he sees as a player hierarchy in terms of who his starting players are and then the rest that fall behind them.
But does that come from the board though? People keep mentioning this and that how involved Levy is, and you keep going back to that thing on Apple TV or whatever it was, Amazon Prime, whatever it was, and how he used to kind of appear, didn't he, and have breakfast with them, and he was that kind of like awkward guy that was sort of there. You get this impression that he's the one who's like, no, he gets paid this and he gets paid this and he gets paid this, and therefore these are the ones that must play, and he gets paid this and he doesn't have to. And you kind of see that possibly might be something that actually happens.
Possibly, but yeah, might be back. I'd like to hope not, but possibly. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what James thinks, but it's just like Poch got rid of that, didn't he? When it wasn't going right, and he could have been on the verge of sack, and he was like, Adebayor, Cabal, Capu, that's it. I'm going to do it my way with my players. There's no hierarchy here. And he brought the young lads in and stuff, and we went on. So Conte's a big enough character. It's just another excuse, I think. Surely if you're in it for the long haul and you want to push the team on, you stamp that out if you're the coach and you want to push it on. It's just all excuses and waffle, and just more than nonsense that's going on at Tottenham at the minute. There's no direction, no leadership, no accountability. That's what's happening at Tottenham in the minute, and everything that comes out just is more proof to that.
Just on that point, James, just around the player hierarchy. I mean, even Stellini coming out and saying that, reinforcing what Conte said. It can't be good for the squad morale overall, can it?
God, no. Look, what do I even say? How do I say this in a way that isn't just 20 swear words? Conte had a tantrum in the media. Some of what he said was completely correct. Some of what he said was him being a stubborn little cunt, right? Simple as.
There goes our monetization.
You swore in the first 15 seconds, Craig. Come on, you can't agree. YouTube actually doesn't like it when you swear in the first 30 seconds. That's what makes you lose your monetization.
Okay, blame me.
And persistent swearing over Anyway, this is a different conversation. Anyway, look, Stellini saying it's just completely fucking tone deaf, isn't it? Like, right, what you got to do is, right, you can turn around and give any player in private a bollocking. Fair enough, right? You can turn around and say, you were fucking shit today. That wasn't good enough. All right, I wouldn't say that necessarily, but that's a different thing to going and saying, oh, yeah, players just can't be asked, and I'm not telling him to play like this or something. It doesn't help. You look at guys like Porro who disabled their social media accounts, Sanchez, that was a bit different. But when there's all this pressure from outside, again, you have to remember, these are people. It doesn't matter how much fucking money they have, right? They are, young, older than me, but younger than most people watching, right? People who have sacrificed a lot in their lives, they couldn't go out drinking, really. They couldn't smoke. They couldn't do all these other things they necessarily wanted to do. They sacrificed so much in their life to play football. And I'm not saying, feel bad for them or something. But end of the day, right, they've given everything to football. And when everything around you in the media, you put Sky Sports on in the morning when you get to the club for training, and you see the manager going, there's a hierarchy at the club and we can't follow it. It's not going to help you, is it? It's not going to make you go, right, lads, come on, let's fucking do this before a game of football. You're just going to think, personally, I just go, I don't give a shit. I'm getting paid either way. They're not Spurs fans. Some of them are. I'm sure Kane loves the club, But if I was, Bayer Leverkusen, right, and I heard the manager just slag us all off, and I was there, I'd just go, don't give a shit. I did, Dave. And I'll tell you why. A, I was pissed. I was quite fucked. B, it's because he wombled off the pitch like a morbidly obese person struggling to walk up a flight of stairs. And C, he threw a tantrum. And I'm not necessarily proud of the fact that I booed, but I was pissed. So, allow it. Plus, I was a teenager then. Anyway, that's the rant over. Someone else say something, please.
Shall we get into the booing thing? Craig, let's talk about that and how we feel about that.
Yeah. I've got views as well, but I'm not. I'll shut up on this one.
Becky, you go first.
Yeah, Becky, you was at the ground. How did it play out for you? What was it like? Where did it start? What happened? What's the reality of what happened in the ground? Well,
Sanchez didn't play very long, so it
22
minutes. It wasn't like something that kind of was sort of building. I think I don't know if I said this before. The atmosphere in the ground was very quiet anyway. There was a lot of people that were there for their first game. I'm not criticising that. Everybody has a first game. I just don't think the South Korean supporters and the kids would have been booing. So that has to be pretty much everybody else. And I'm not sure that's what it was. What it more was is I felt it was things like ironic kind of laughing. And I said this off air that I'm sorry, but any sub who gets subbed, it's hilarious. And I've laughed at many teams that have done it. So I sort of went, oh, okay, right, yeah, fair dues. But then when people seemed to notice it was Danjuma, there was more of a cheer. So whether people saw that as that's when Sanchez went off and there was a cheer because they were cheering Sanchez off, but I think it was also that they were cheering that Danjuma was coming on. I said this before, I was surprised Kulusevski finished the game. I expected him to be subbed for Danjuma. So I think there's a little bit of that, but we could argue whether it's right or not. I don't personally think it helps anybody. Any of us that watch kids football, you don't boo the kids. It doesn't make them any better. Booing doesn't make anybody better at what they do. But unfortunately, people feel that it's really tricky to kind of communicate their feelings to the board or to the people on the dugout without that sort of thing. I felt the leave it out chants weren't as loud or as vociferous, but I think that's because there were people that physically just weren't there on Saturday. They sold their tickets on the exchange or whatever. And the same with the Mauricio Pochettino ones. We talked last week about when Stellini got sent off, the Poch songs were immediate. that wasn't really the case either. Because I warned Jack, because Jack was at this one. I went, no, Jack, we might sing the Pot song. You might hear it. And he said the same. He didn't really notice it that much. Answering Dave's question, I've never booed a player. No, I don't. I may have booed an away player. That's a different thing. And that, but not a home player. I just don't see what benefit it does. You know, if Sanchez has to play now because Longley is injured, he's got to play knowing what's happened and almost like every single mistake. I saw a lot of people on Twitter saying that the booing helped Emerson Royal improve. Now, was it because there was strength in depth and we had Porro trying to play in his position? Who knows? I can't say it's just the booing. Booing is not going to improve Sanchez because it's likely that whoever then gets fit, he doesn't play again. So Sanchez has become like a kind of sub player for quite a long time. He only plays a run of games if there's injuries. So, I think quite a lot of was made of it because the fact that he was subbed. But he was really, really poor. He was really poor. I'm not condoning the booing, but for the type he played, he was really. And he played when we conceded at Everton as well. And he was down the side of the Spurs fans at the Everton game as well. So, people who've been to that game and have been to Bournemouth game are like, oh, here we go again. And I think it's frustration. It's a culmination of a lot of things. It's not just Sanchez.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
I think
So I was going to say, I agree with Becky. I've never booed a player, just say, and I would never boo a player for everything that Becky said. I just don't think it's productive. That's to say, I have booed. I did boo, and I got at Nuno and the decision he made, a tactical substitution he made at some point. I can't remember the tactical. I don't know if it was the substitution that Dave's mentioned in the chat, which
Man United,
mate. Now
that wasn't at a player. Yeah. That was at the decision that Nuno made with the tactical substitution. And it was more about the fact of, come on, you haven't got a clue what you're doing here. I've never, ever booed a player, and I would never boo a player, no matter how bad. At the end of the day, they're putting on their shirt for Tottenham Hotspur, and I believe we've got to support those players. I do also believe that if there was booing in the stadium, and to what extent it was, and if it was misinterpreted booing, I probably think it's a bigger reflection of the booing or the noise was more a unhappiness with everything that's going on around the club at this moment in time. And that was just a catalyst, if you like, for that to come out, that emotion. The same way that Stellini getting sent off was a catalyst for, the Pochettino song in the game before and the unique out chants that come in the stadium. It's just an event in time that created it. But personally, I've never booed a player. I've never gone on social media, tagged a player in and abuse them for the role that they play in the game. I just think that's absolutely crazy. And I just think anyone that does that, they wouldn't do it in person. They would not go up to that player in person, not tap them on the shoulder and turn them around and then slag them off in any way, shape or form.
I would,
I just think it's crazy. Well, maybe you would. Psychic, what's your take?
What Sam Hot? I've slagged players off left, right, and centre constantly. I've booed at decisions. Like I was there the United game with Nuno, and that was terrible. I've booed then, and I've been about in the 90s when I was younger, like James, when we lost to Man City in the FA Cup. When in the last minute, John Macken in the Man United game 3-0 up at half time, and I've seen some truly dreadful displays. And I've sort of heckled and booed at the end or whatever. But I don't think I've ever just nailed one player and booed him. And I can always remember when I was younger and Gary Doherty was at Spurs and he was playing and there was somebody booing him. And I remember an oldish boy behind us going, and he had a go at somebody who was booing him. And he basically said, it's not his fault. He's not good enough. But he's not. It's the people who are picking him and playing him, or the fact that we haven't got a better player to come in. That's what's wrong. He's out there. That's him. That is what he's about. That is how good he is. Don't fucking boo him. You're not. It's not going to do him any favors while he's on the pitch. And that's always sort of resonated in my head. But when the game's not on, mate, I've slagged players off left, right, and centre. But to physically boo somebody when every time they touch a ball or try and do anything. And then to see him come off after when he did that, don't get me wrong, like Beck said, he was rubbish. And it was probably the best move to bring him off for himself as well. But that's not nice to see. But I mean, the whole thing is symptomatic of what's going on at Spurs, isn't it? I think the singing for Pochettino is basically, we want Poch back, but we'll have anyone who plays a better brand of football. We just want a new manager. We want you to sort it out. And the booing of players is just because, this is rubbish. This, you're bringing a rubbish. We want better players. It's not. It's difficult, isn't it? Because Chelsea booed their team off in the past few weeks, and I should imagine most teams have been booed off or get booed when they don't play well. But they weren't directed at a single player because they are a team. And like I've said to you,
was Sanchez the one that got sub? Did Sanchez? Is that the one that was brought on? I can't remember because I've kind of forgotten it all. In the AC Milan home game, was Sanchez brought on? Yeah, for Kulusevski, wasn't it? Is that right? Have I remembered that right? Somebody in the chat will tell me. So I think that didn't help either. And don't get me wrong, obviously this one wasn't that kind of substitution, but I think it's also a little bit of we're bringing Sanchez on
because we need
again.
A goal.
Yeah, and Kulusevski was brought off and that sort of thing. I don't think that helps either. It's just like you said, he's doing the job. He's doing what he's supposed to do, isn't he? And it's not
very good at it, him. He's just not. Yeah. He's not good enough, Beck. He's not good enough, and he hasn't been good enough for a couple of seasons now. So it's like I said in the chat, and when it happened, and he came off and they were booing him. I said that's on the coaching staff. They put him on, they set him up to fail, and then they bring him off after 23 minutes. That action, what they've done with that player, is down on them. That shows how inept their decision making was in the first place, that they have to do that to rectify the game. Because they had half time to change things about and maybe try and cover him, or maybe try and protect him, or maybe try and do things. But they didn't do anything different. They came out, as we said, they didn't do anything different. And it culminated in a bloke having to be brought on who's had a bad game, probably will never play for Spurs again now. I'm not saying he should do, but probably won't play for Spurs because of all that nonsense. Just absolute mind-numbing.
I don't know. I don't think they will because they played Royal, didn't they, when he got booed? So I think.
But it's that decision making at Tottenham Hotspur at the minute is mind-numbing. From the board, the coaching staff, and then it's all those decisions. It's all building up into a crescendo now, and it's just the perfect storm of shit at the minute at Tottenham Hotspur.
Yeah, it is. Just want to this come up in the chat from John. If you pay for a ticket, you have the right to be whenever you want. I don't dispute with any of that stuff. I don't dispute the fact if you're paying for a ticket, you can go and you can show your displeasure in whichever way that suits you. What I'm arguing is I don't think booing an individual player is the best way of achieving anything. Is my mind's eye. You can do what you want. You pay the ticket, you do what you want. I'm not going to. I know. Yeah, and I just say this. Season ticket holder. I've just renewed. Again, that's another £1.5 out the bank, sort of thing. Becky goes to every single games week in, week out. It's costly. I know how much it costs. I'm never going to turn around to someone and say you can't express any feelings you want, but do it. There's more productive ways of doing it. Is my view.
Can I,
John?
Right. I agree on the one hand because you're free to say whatever you want. I don't care. I'm not your dad, right? But let's put it this way. You go to a restaurant, right? And there's a waiter who drops a plate or forgets something because they're having a bad day, right? Everyone's human. Do you have the right to turn around and berate them? Right? Because it's no. Sorry. It's not about the fact the player put in a bad performance, right? But I wouldn't boo a player just for playing shit. Because if someone's shit, they're shit, right? It's how they respond to that. Now, if they turn around and they start a row with you over nothing, all right, fair enough, they're a twat. But I think if you berate someone just for not being very good at the job they're doing, and I'm sorry, I'm just going to say this, you're a cunt. That's what I think. And I don't like this Real Madrid entitled bollocks mentality. Look, I get the football's expensive. I go to my local team a lot, and it's hell of a lot cheaper than Spurs, right? But I would never boo a player just for being shit, right? Because if they're not good enough, they're not good enough. That's not their fault, is it? It's the issue of the ownership. I've only ever booed one player in person. Obviously, if you're watching on the TV, you slag off whoever. Every time Wales or England play Croatia, I slag off the entire Croatia team because they're dirty cheats. But, I don't like the mentality of, oh yeah, well, I pay a ticket for something, so I have a right to slag off another human being. I just think that's a really cunty, entitled mindset. I'm sorry, people can disagree with me if they want, but I know I'm right, so whatever.
Sorry, I don't think. I guess I'm saying I'm not going to ever turn around to. So yeah, no, I'm saying, James, I don't think any of us are in a position to turn around to another person who's paying whatever they're paying to go and watch the Tottenham team to tell them what they can or can't do at a football game. That's up to them. Whether I agree with it, James, I'm on the same page as you. I don't think it's the right thing to do. I think that football in general, is just different to any other thing. It's not like someone said about going to the opera, you wouldn't boo. Well, football has its own life, doesn't it? We are complete different people at football, whether we like it or not. Yeah. It's just a different environment. People say things on the terraces, on the stands. They cheer, they say things that they wouldn't necessarily say or do in any other normal way of life, in any other normal function. It's just football. It's a different world. But yeah, I agree with you, James, wholeheartedly in that I don't think it's the right thing to do. But I'm not going to turn around to another person who sits next to me who's paid 60, 70 quid for a ticket and say they can't. I may say I think you're wrong. But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, you'll get every different person have a different opinion, mate. You've just got to take respect to the people's opinions and behave how you feel is the right way to behave. And that's all you can do.
So let's Freya, I think is the right pronunciation of the name, has asked this question for us, and I think this is the perfect place to take the conversation.
Oh, thank God!
In the next part of the show. So, where will all this end? What's going to happen next? How much more toxic will the stadium support get? Becky, where does it go next?
Well, it's a tricky one, really, because the next home game is United. So it's a Category A game. So automatically, the type of people that are a Category A game are different to people who are a Category C game. I know some people who only go to United, City, Arsenal, West Ham and Chelsea, and they always then put the rest of their tickets on the ticket exchange. They might go to Liverpool, maybe. So that's into it as well. So there's, you'd argue that they're people who've supported the club for a bit longer. I don't know, but so that's that part. But also there's Newcastle before that. Like we said before, they had a blip earlier in the week, didn't they? But I see them, scoring quite a few against us on Sunday. By the time we come back to Spurs, who knows? People are saying in the chat, how long will Stellini last for? To get rid of two managers or interims or whatever, that quickly after Conte is farcical, isn't it? Really, if you're going to bring somebody in after sacking a manager, you should have them till the end of the season at the very least. I'm watching about Leicester, people bring in teams and they've relegated them. They've tried to improve them, help them stay up, and it hasn't worked. They don't then get rid of them 3 games before the end of the season and go, well, we'll try again. Manager bounce doesn't work that much. So, as much as I would like Stellini to move on, if that was the case, he should have done that before. So I think, you may as well stick with him. But yeah, it's we might lose every single game from now on. The problem is, we've said this before, you can't massively predict Spurs. None of us probably would have expected the Chelsea result. City, we always hoped for a result like that, but we could have been rolled over by them as well. And then we didn't expect the Leicester result. So we just can't predict. But I think it's like we've just said, the kind of lack of confidence, the worry, to make mistakes, all that sort of stuff. If players are tired or they've been overused or whatever, those errors are going to come in if we are pressed. And we could go the whole season without winning another game. Some people want us to finish 8th. That just gives Levy an opportunity to say we've got no money, we can't sign anybody. But equally, it'd be an absolute miracle for us to finish 4th. So yeah, it's a bit of a. We said on here, I felt we were sleepwalking towards the end of everything, and ages ago, and that's before Conte officially went. And it's weird. We've had some players have a bit of an upturn. Sonny seems to be playing in a more sort of freer position. There are some positives, but there aren't many, and they're being outdone by the negatives massively on the pitch and in terms of results.
Gibbo, where does it go for you? What do you want to see?
I think the next week will be horrendous. We could dig out results. I just don't see it at the moment. I don't see it in the personality in the players. I don't see it from the sidelines. And I understand what Becky's saying, but for me, Stellini is just a complete and utter waste of time. Mason, at least, will probably be a coach at Tottenham Hotspur next season in some capacity if he was to stay on. There is no future for Stellini. Like, even when we brought all the forwards on Friday, we just chucked, Saturday, sorry, they were all just chucked on there, go and get us a goal. Desperation, like we said, shit or bust. For me, I think we come out of that with a poor return of points, and then top four will have gone. And I think they probably should and will get rid of Stellini then. And you've got 4 games left. And if there's not someone available that's going to come in, then you just stick with Mason then, because he knows the club. Like I said, he's going to be there. The players will be freer then, because the top 4 thing isn't hanging over him, and just get rid of him because he's just pointless. He's absolutely pointless. He's a pointless figure. He stands on the side. You know, he doesn't really... He got sent off because he couldn't control his bench. He just stood away from him. Like Saturday was just a disaster. A disaster in coaching, really. Nothing comes from him. Talks as much nonsense. Well, not as much nonsense as Conte, but is saying the same old rubbish. I don't want Mason to take charge. I don't want it to be Mason. But I would rather see Ryan Mason, even if they got rid of all the other staff and they brought through like the under-23s players to do the same thing till the end of the season, or they brought Defoe up, or somebody with just a little bit of like gravitas, Yaya or someone to be with him on the bench, someone that the younger players, the few that we've got, can look up to. But I just cannot see us getting a lot from the next 3 games. And because I think the home game, I did think at one point we do all right against Man United, but the way things are going, I thought the fans would be up for it. The fans ain't going to be up for it. It's just flat. And Stellini is just an absolute waste of time. A terrible appointment, a terrible decision. And as we said at the time, Craig, nothing changes. Just get rid of him. It might look bad. It might look ridiculous, but you're better off without him. And then see where it takes you, because we're going nowhere at the minute with him there. So, yeah, for me, I know people, like John takes a mick and says like I'm negative or whatever, but at the minute it is. The football's negative. Everything's negative around the club, and it's hard to. Like I sort of said about the results, but we looked out, didn't we? Again, I said that what happened on Saturday, I said would happen against Brighton, but we sort of had a stay of execution to the next week, and that's what.
But even in Forest, when we beat Forest, I remember everyone saying around us, it papered over the cracks, and people were using that phrase in the ground, particularly when they had the penalty save in the end. Don't get me wrong, Forest were never going to come back and equalise, but it was still this sort of idea of nothing's. I remember we were saying before World Cup, when we beat Leeds, as much fun as Leeds was, and Leicester home was quite fun too. Everton game was all right. We never played amazing in any of them, and people were like, "Oh, it's great, we're getting points," but it's not great. Now the ability to win the matches has gone. It is really bad. We've talked on here before. We had lots of discussions about, can you put up with the poor football if we get the results? And we'd had the best start after 10 games and all this business, but it was not fun. And I said on here that taking Jack to a game where we get a result is brilliant, but it's hard work. It's obviously now horrendous when we don't manage to hold on. And I've seen lots of people retweeting the South Korea training sessions from the summer, saying that this was supposed to give us that edge at the end of the season. It was supposed to give us this edge in the last 10 minutes of fixtures to get through, and that's when we're conceding goals. Hotspur Sam put earlier up in the chat about the amount of goals we've conceded in the last sort of 10, 15 minutes and that sort of thing. And, even the Forest penalty that was saved, that was towards the end of the game. And, even that kind of idea that, the training sessions were supposed to help, it hasn't. And so I think it does come down to confidence and coaching, and that's not there.
Beck, it is, because I don't think the fitness is a massive issue. I don't think it is. I just think it's the whole vibe, how the team have played. Everybody said, "Oh, we're playing like this because we're conserving energy or whatever we're doing till the World Cup," and then it's just got worse after the World Cup. And like Conte, no matter what people say, wanted out, apart from literally going up to Levy and like knocking him out or like literally ripping into him. He literally sat in a press conference and without actually saying it, begged to be sacked.
Yeah.
Begged to be sacked. But we let that go on for so long as well. And it's just like, it's an absolute, and I don't think it is the fitness side, Becky. I just think it's literally the whole feeling around Spurs and we do have injuries that, mitigation we do have. We like Bentancur is a massive miss. Basuma at this moment in time is a miss. Like even Sessegnon, we can't. There's, and Royale.
Yeah, it's right. The wing backs, we can't
options.
Change up wing backs.
Yeah.
We can't. No.
But it's the style. It's what we're doing. It's how we go about doing it. It's just that is what's bringing us down. But the whole Stellini, and I cannot believe that Levy is sat there watching games, or other people who are in positions of power at Tottenham Hotspur are sat there watching it and I think we've made the right decisions here.
But Holly put this, I noticed on Twitter the other day, and Holly's in the chat now, is that I think they are completely not clueless. That's not the word I'm looking for. They don't tone deaf to it, because they've started leaking. Finally, I said this in last week's show. They've started to finally leak that that Poch isn't coming. And I said this last week. Until they start leaking out bits that he's not coming, I'm believing he's still coming. Today, they've started leaking it weirdly on the anniversary of the Man City away game when we got through to the Champions League final. But anyway, to the semi-final. But they've started leaking out that he's not coming, and they're trying to kind of claim that the last 6 months, which weren't great, and not winning away for all that time, yada yada yada. That's starting to be kind of led is this idea that you go.
I guarantee you now, if Pochettino had came in with those 10 games left, and I don't want Pochettino back because I don't want him to ruin the good times he had before, which I'm worried may happen. It might not. But if he'd have come in with the 10 games that Conte had left, we'd be challenging not only for the 4th place, but for 3rd place now, just because of the general feel. And I think the lift we'd have got and everything. And that is on the board.
Yeah, I agree. The board have got a lot to answer to. I've written some things down in no particular order. The women's team have no manager. The men's team have no manager. Our director of football is suspended by the FA from all international footballs on extended leave at the moment. Munn has been appointed as the new overall director of football. Is on gardening leave from his current job with the City Group. Doesn't start until the summer. Kane going into his last year of the contract. No visible strategy on replacing Conte. No strategy or plan for on-field progressions. It's just a sign for me of total inept from everyone at the club. And that's the biggest frustration for me. And I've said it before and here. I think, Becky, you've said it tonight. We're just sleepwalking to the summer. That's all we're doing. Everything in my mind's eye is waiting on what happens with Paratici next Wednesday, I think. Is it this Wednesday or next Wednesday?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
This Wednesday, I think.
This Wednesday, what happens on there? And I'm not even sure, by the way, we'll even hear by the end of play Wednesday. I think it will probably be something they'll go away and consider. But anyway, waiting for that. And then realistically, is anything Levy's come out and said that Munn doesn't, Munn is taking responsibility for decisions. Oh, sorry, I don't know if I've lost you all there. Takes responsibility for decisions. Is anything going to happen before he comes into post? I just don't know. But what the club need to do is something, act, anything. Yeah. We need a catalyst to change something. They need to communicate something. Anything. I'll take anything. Even to say to us fans, this is what our plan is with the manager search. This is what we're going to do.
I mean, Craig's going in and out, but like Alistair Gold last night on his YouTube thing said the club are actively.
Sorry, guys.
Sorry, Craig. It's all right, mate. Alistair, I was just saying, Craig, that the club of Alistair Gold said the club are actively. If somebody says, "Oh, such and such is a favourite for the Spurs job now," the club are going, "Oh, no, we don't have a clear favourite." They're actively saying they. It just sounds like So they've sacked Conte now. They knew he was going. They knew he was going to go at the end of the season.
Exactly.
So in January, December time. That's
in the World Cup.
The
World Cup.
contingency plans, because that's what it needs to be. Even whoever we take on next, there needs to be a contingency plan of the sort of coach they'll be looking to progress. Say, for instance, if it was Company and you adopted a certain style of football, but we fear in a few years' time he might go to Man City. So then we'll be looking at coach X, Y, and Z or what they like. That's what should have been happening from a while ago. So they should have, like, you can't be going, well, we quite like Enrique, and he's one of our list, and so is Brendan Rodgers, and so is like another manager who's completely different.
But like somebody said the other day, it's almost like they list as many managers as they can just to kind of edge their bets, but also waiting around is like, well, we couldn't get him because he went there, and we couldn't get him because he went there, rather than going and actually doing it and getting it done. And then they'll say, well, we can't do that because we've got to wait to see if we get in the Champions League. But like you just said, if we'd actually made an effort to try and get in the Champions League, then that decision would be easier in the first place, wouldn't it? And it's all just everybody's sort of sitting on their hands. And because as a result, we are sleepwalking our way, and everybody's getting more cross. I think the kind of the anger, I think will be quite palpable in the Man United game because it's televised and it's a night game and that sort of thing. But like a lot of people I've read when they said that when Bournemouth scored, they just kind of went, huh, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like it wasn't a surprise, and it was a shame. I thought we played quite well in that sort of 5-minute spell to equalise, and it was just so shocking the way they conceded that goal. And and fair dues to Bournemouth, they're like, well, you did to us in the other game, and we did. And I tweeted on Saturday that the 3 scorers in the return fixture were all injured. That's how much our season has changed. But to come back to 2-2, we're like, yeah, okay, we should be beating Bournemouth, but we've come back 2-2. Maybe there's something we can kick on from. And when they score, it's like, oh, right, okay,
it's dead. That's
it's
what
just,
the word my son's using.
That's what it is. It's
dead.
just like, okay.
It's dead. But James might be able to expand on this. But like I read like a report today, so you never know. This was earlier on when Zach was at football, so I'm looking at my phone. That they're talking about a couple of stories tonight. Like they're going to try and talk to Enrique this week, possibly something like that. And then Company is high on the list. Some of the board really like him because he's up and coming and like will be like Arteta, young, up and coming, and he's got a lot of potential. But some at the board don't think he's experienced enough. So you're telling me they want a young up and coming manager who's experienced. You can't. Do you know what I mean?
Also, doesn't that also show that lack of kind of decision making? Is of actually, yes, we've got a board, but there needs to be somebody who has a actual final say, and that's the problem.
Decide what you want to do as a club. There's enough of you. Get together. This is what we want to do. This is what we want, and we've identified these 3 coaches. Let's go for them. Not like Adrian in that put a massive list in here of take your pick, which he's right. We've heard of all these, but you're like, I'm just trying to get them up on here, but it's just like. It's just like, no, you could start talking. Some of these managers, there's like last year in Germany, I think Rosa, or it was before he took the job he's in now, they announced it with a few games to go that he was going to Dortmund. I think it was when he went to Dortmund, if he was there, or he's at Leipzig, but it was one of them. And they announced it like about now, next season, so-and-so will be our manager. There's coaches there who might not want the job now, but if you really want them, go for them now. People saying, they'll wait and see what's about in the summer. Well, you go to them, and if they say, I'm going to wait and see what's about in the summer, then you move on. They're not the. Because
we can afford them. I saw someone tweet today saying that Levy prefers to pay a lot of money for managers than pay for a lot of money for players. Yeah. So we can afford the managers.
We could get that guy in, and we could say, now this is where we're going, and the fans would be like, right, we can live with that. This is some will, some won't. But James, I'm right, aren't I? That some of these coaches, and like we're saying, we want someone who's going to be our first choice. So if you go to, let's say, Nagelsmann, and he's like, I'm going to wait and see what Chelsea offer me, or Real Madrid might be up. You go, fine. That's it. If we're not your first choice, and and you don't want to take on this project and really go for it, and it's going to be like what we had with Antonio Conte, then thanks, but no thanks. We move on. But at least start doing stuff.
They've said, haven't they? They want it to be. They want the person for Spurs to be their first choice. Problem is finding that person is really
it's
hard.
finding that person. But you know, there will be people. There will be people on that list. James will know more about them than us. That'll go, I fancy that job. That'll be a real challenge for me. That'll be an honour to go to Spurs and try and push them on to win something. That's what we want. And if somebody's like, I might go to Chelsea. I mean, they look like a car crash, but they'll give me loads of money and I've probably got more chance of winning the league by spending loads of money. Then you're like, well, you're not the guy we want. Am I right, James?
Yeah. I mean, the issue fundamentally in the recruitment of our next manager is threefold. You have to predominantly fill 3 pieces of criteria. A, you have to be our first choice or someone who really wants to come to Spurs. B, you have to be a name big enough to appease some of our big players and Daniel Levy's ego, right?
Yeah.
You can't go from Conte to Steve from down the local boozer. And finally, I think you have to be someone who wants to stick around for a few years. Because we are an attractive proposition as a club. You'll have money to spend. We do have some very, very good players. We have a decent squad overall. Brilliant facilities in London. You'll get a huge fucking salary, won't you? End of the day. I genuinely think Levy is just waiting to see what happens with Paratici before actually doing anything, which is kind of worrying because, pick up the phone. I'm sure someone at Spurs has contacts and can pick up the phone or send an email. It's not difficult, and arrange a meeting with at least a couple of these, have the conversation. And okay, if it turns out that Nagelsmann or Pochettino or whoever doesn't fit the criteria you've identified, then you go, okay, well, they're off the list. We move on to the next one. I agree. It's not difficult, but you identify your criteria, then you look for your manager on those bases, right? It doesn't look like we're doing anything at all at the moment, which is even more worrying. Because what are we paying the board to do? To sit around and, have and watch these abysmal performances and having a pint.
Yeah.
I'd love to be paid to have a pint and watch shit football. I'll do that for free, mate.
And let's be honest, like some people have put in the chat, Spurs can't afford to take a risk on a new manager. Every manager that comes to Spurs now next season is a risk. Every player you take is a risk. But if the club have a vision, which you'd like to hope they have, of this is what we want to be, like Arsenal with Arteta. They got Arteta in, and he and they stuck with him, and it's bearing the fruits. It's fruits now, isn't it? Like you see where they are. Like Man City have a vision of what they want to do. Liverpool with Klopp, they'll have succession plans for when those managers want to come. They'll know what they want to do. Brighton, all these clubs. Spurs have now at the point where every one of these choices is going to be a risk. We've had the so-called dead certs like Conte, serial winner, Jose, he'll win us a trophy. It hasn't worked. Every single one of these appointments is going to be a risk. So you nail your colours to the mast on what the risk is going to be, and you ride with it and you stick with it and you do everything within your power to make it work. And like if it's company, some of the stuff I've read about company I quite like. I've seen things. I've seen the way he talks to players. I've seen the way he talks about players, how he talks about the group, what he's trying to do. I like that type of thing. I think modern day football, that's more what you've got to do, and you've got to back him. He's inexperienced, but Arteta never had a job before. But they're all going to be risks, all of them. Sorry to butt in on everyone.
Well, you could say hypothetically that Mourinho and Conte weren't risks because they're not new managers; they're serial winners. And how does that work out?
Exactly.
Pochettino was a risk. Worked out a lot better, didn't it?
Whoever it is for me, I'm sick of negative. I've had 5 years where the football has been pretty much torturous. So whoever Spurs get in now, as long as they're going to come in, and I'm sure the next manager will be a more progressive manager. I'm 100% sure of that. Then whoever it is, even if it's someone like Brendan Rodgers, and I don't want Brendan Rodgers, and I know Craig doesn't want him, but I will get behind them and I will back what they're trying to do. As long as there's a clear vision, I will back them. Any of these managers, Enrique, Postecoglou, I like the thought of company. I've talked myself round to Vincent Kompany. I actually think that players now will look at a guy like that. Somebody said, how will he get respect in the changing rooms? Well, I think he'll get respect because he's that type of character. If you listen to him talk, he says stuff like, I wasn't the best player in the team and I was injured for a lot of it. But what I did was I dragged people along. If there was somebody in the gym who was really struggling when I was injured, I'd talk to them and I'd drag them along and I'd pick them up and I'd tell them, you're going to come back and you're going to come back stronger. I think he's an impressive character. And, if it's worked for Arteta, why can't that type of thing work for us if he's given the right backing in the right time? So I'm willing to give any of these managers where we're linked with a go, because I'm just so sick and fed up of watching dull, negative football by people, by coaches who then just want to blame everybody else by taking any responsibility for themselves and making the team and not trying to make the team better. If you get where I'm coming from.
But Becky, for you, what's your criteria for the next manager? Without, I think it's too difficult to name. We've all done that before. But what is it you want to see from the team in terms of the next manager?
Attacking football, a bit of a team spirit. I think I tweeted, somebody asked yesterday, when was the last game you genuinely enjoyed? And I did put Chelsea because, to be fair, beating Chelsea 2-0 at home was quite fun. But then I kind of said, but really none of it was in comparison to March onwards last year. And I said it was about the momentum that we had, even seeing the players smiling, it's a big deal. They're enjoying themselves. We're enjoying ourselves. So, the connection we had to the team, just the kind of whole vibe around everything, the momentum massively helped. The confidence was there. It was enjoyable to watch, all of that. So and then someone will pipe up and go, well, yeah, we could play really great football and not win anything. Well, we tried playing, a different style of football. We didn't want anything either. So can I go back to enjoying going, please? Because like we said, it costs quite a lot. And I go with Jack. So it costs me a fair amount, the two of us. Yeah. And that's my choice. And that's fine. But equally, it's a lot easier when you go down and enjoy it. And I love seeing the people and I love going down there. And there's that side of it. I would go forever. But I just want that back, that kind of, like we talked about, that leaning forward football. When Kulu says he gets the ball and everyone leans forward and that sort of thing that we just haven't had.
Yeah. What about you, James? Is it same for you?
Yeah, sorry, I was typing on my keyboard, so I mute myself for a second. I just attack it like modern football, progressive football. I want our team to come out with the mindset that we're going to win the match, front foot. Okay, when I play Football Manager, I know it's not the same, okay? And people are going to disagree with me and be angry at me in the comments, but I don't care, go away. Your opinion doesn't matter to me. I want us to go out and win every game, 3-0, Not just get a goal and sit back. Yeah, we go, we kill the game off, we make the other team shit scared for their lives, right? That's what I want. I want us to actually play modern football. Tactically, I want to see if we can, young players be bled through. And, it's not about going and signing the 11 best players in the world, but I just want a manager who comes in and says, okay, we have some very good players here. Okay, we do need to, clear out a dead wood and change the squad, but I think anyone can see that, right? But someone who can actually start said process in a more modern style.
Modern thinking, James.
Yeah,
that's what we want.
Too dissimilar to what Pochettino did, but like Arteta did it, right? And he had never had a job before he took over Woolwich. So obviously you can do it if you have the right mentality towards football. That's all it is. That's what I want to see. I want to see us go to win games. It doesn't have to be, high line, full pressing or tiki-taka or something. Just actually going out to win football matches and not playing to not lose. Under Jose and Conte, every game was playing to not lose. We weren't playing to win. I
don't want to see a midfield of skipping Højbjerg, James. Do you? I do not want to see bog standard.
The only time I ever want to see those two is if there's an attacking midfielder in front of them.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
Morecambe or someone.
Just be brave, like you said. Modern thinking.
Go for it.
Be brave. try to go out to win games, not to lose them. I know at times you have to be a bit more pragmatic, like when we play against City, and that works. Of course you do. That's part of a coach's job. Adapt to other teams, adapt to situations,
make changes.
Things that Conte and Mourinho wouldn't do. And like I said, I live with a big family of Villa fans, right? So you can blame the players all you like, and they're right to do that. But Unai Emery has got pretty much, apart from one left back, I think he brought in, he's got the same players he had that were in the bottom six of the league. They are now challenging for top four because they believe in him. He adapts to situations. He's got players like Matt Cash out, who's an international fullback. He's got Coutinho can't get in the team. He's got players playing well. He's playing to their strengths, and he's made them a far better team. And those players have bought into what he believes. And he's just a really good coach. And they are now pushing for top four because they're riding the crest of a wave, and they're doing really well. And that has just been well planned out by the board. They've made a good appointment, and he's improved those players they've got. And the manager we had wouldn't adapt. Didn't want to improve players, just wanted the best players to do what he told them. And what we need is a more modern way of thinking, a more energetic way of thinking. And obviously, we need a few better players.
Completely agree.
Simple, right? It would help if we had a manager that wanted to be here, brings their family over here and that sort of thing. I think if you don't bring your family over, because there's this guy, the bald guy from, is he the Dutch guy?
Slots.
Saying that there's family ties that wouldn't bring him over, and that would be a complication. Well, then don't do it. Don't do it then. Okay, we want someone who's fully committed for the time they have to be fully committed for.
I think
that helps.
I've got a good feeling that it will be company, and I can live with that. I know a lot of people don't want him. I've sort of bought into it. I've talked myself around to it, but as well, people say, why would he leave Burnley? They've got a transfer embargo. It's a massive opportunity for him. I think all his family will be over here with him and everything. So I think I've just got a feeling that that's a goer. And like I said, more so as well, because I've probably talked myself around for it. But he's young. He has coached before. It's a good opportunity for him. And I'd rather someone that when it goes wrong wants it to go right because he's trying to prove that he is a good manager rather than someone who thinks, I don't need this. I'm a top coach.
And the problem with Conte and Mourinho is like all they kept falling back on was we won things elsewhere. That was like their kind of answer to everything. It's like, well, you have to stick with it because we won stuff elsewhere. But the thing is as well for company, if we do get company, I want us to do it in like the end of May, beginning of June, not 31st of August or whatever it'll be. That's the other side that's annoying. Just if that's what's going to do, whoever it is, get on and do it. Yeah. So that we don't have all this all summer.
If it's a company or someone else who's up and coming, when things go wrong, they will try and change. They will try and adapt. They will try and turn it because they want to prove themselves and they want to show that they're a good coach. And that's what we want. Someone who will try and do something about it. What we don't want is people to go, I don't need this. I don't need to prove I'm a good manager. This lot can't do what I'm telling them. And then it just goes stale, which is what has happened. Because like Poch did that in the end. He started talking in riddles. And the players just lost faith in him. Nuno wasn't up to it, and Mourinho and Conte just thought that they were too big for the club. They didn't need us. We needed them more. We don't need that. We don't want that. So that's why I'm looking at younger, more progressive coaches.
Tell us in the group chat, who do you want? If Gibbo's good with his predictions, to be fair, he's got a lot right this season so far. If his prediction is right about company, how would you feel about that? Let us know. When do we announce if it is going to be him? When do we announce it? What's the timeline? Do you like to see it announced?
Yeah, it won't be though. It won't be because they'll be paying compensation over the next 25 years and then he'll want to go on holiday and it won't be like the 1st of July. We won't have all these photos. We just won't. Levy will be on a business trip or something. There'll be some reason. They'll be writing out contracts, and the players will just be bobbing about, probably being coached by Mason.
I think it will be done. I think it will be done quite quick back when they decide.
Let's hope I'm wrong.
Let's hope. Yeah.
We're not usually that kind of, get it done sort of club, are we? We just don't. We're signing anybody either. We take forever to sign anybody as well.
They can't. They're in such a bad place. I think that.
But if we're not playing matches, from their point of view, they just close their ears to that. So it's only toxic for the next 7 games, isn't it? Once the season ends, it doesn't really matter. They'll turn Twitter off. They'll not watch what they need to watch. This is the board I'm talking about here. They'll just do what they think they're doing, and it's not. That's why people are being vociferous in the ground, because it's the only way they feel they can communicate and be heard. When that stops, they can take as long as they like, because that kind of urgency and that heat on them has gone, isn't it?
So I'm saying company in, but if Paratici keeps his job, which I'm hoping he won't, then apparently, if you believe what you read, that Enrique is the guy that he wants. So I'm saying company, but that's only on the proviso that Paratici gets his P45.
I mean, can Burnley confirm promotion this week? I think
they already have. They already are.
They promoted. It's winning it.
They are promoted. It's winning it. So when can they win it?
2 weeks ago.
This week?
I don't know, but they were promoted. They were promoted the day before the Brighton game, I think.
I think they were. If they'd have won it the weekend, they could have actually been crowned champions. I think it might be either this week, if they've got a game in the week, or the following. But yeah. I think because West Brom have got Sheffield United, I'm not sure who Burnley have got, but they could do it after. Yeah, but I think Burnley have got issues regarding they can't sign players. They've got a lot of loan players at the minute.
They think it's a clerical error. I watched an interview on him the other day. Yeah. He said he thinks it's a clerical error and it will be rectified. So he doesn't think it will be a transfer embargo.
I think the thing with Burnley is, and Company does a decent job in Belgium. I know a lot of people slagged off
with young players, James, didn't he?
Yeah, and also as soon as he left, they performed way worse after he left. So obviously it wasn't Company that was the issue. He's done a good job at Burnley. The issue is taking a team that's playing possession-based football in the Championship with a lot of young, lonely players, going to the Premier League and doing the exact same style, completely different kettle of fish, isn't it?
With he turned around, James.
I agree. My point here isn't to this company. Yeah. My point is, if the Spurs job is on the table for him, okay, done a great job at Burnley, but it's going to be difficult next season for Burnley, regardless if Ferguson was the manager, if Cruyff was the manager, if Pep was, whoever was the manager, it's going to be tricky playing that style because it's a huge step up in quality. If the Spurs job comes up, I think you take it, don't you? Like, it's easy for us to say, but you go to Yaya Touré's hanging out at the club. You can go for a drink with him or something or whatever. But you can play a similar style of football with better players, a lot more money, better facilities. You take it, right? Because again, Burnley have a lot of players on loan. I think they will struggle next season, regardless of who the manager is, just because. Brentford did it really well. Thomas Frank did a really good job of Brentford transitioning that style from the Championship to the Premier League. But it's difficult, right? And it can fall off. Like Sheffield United did. They had one really good season. It was the COVID year, and then they got relegated, right? Going from that really possession-based style. Look, I think Company's done a good job. Is it too soon for him to become Spurs manager? Who knows? But do you know what? Even if we lost every game 4-3, at least we'd fucking go for it, wouldn't we? As opposed to losing like we have under Conte or Jose.
From Company's point of view, you get offered the Spurs job. You take the decision to take it. If you turn it down and you choose to stay at Burnley, so you've had the opportunity to go to Spurs, you stay with Burnley, it could there's as much chance of, obviously Burnley could go tits up, then you lose your job at Burnley. And because it's not worked at Burnley, the next job you get offered is like Everton or one of those lower teams. And then you've got to work your way back up to get to the top. Do you take the risk at coming to Spurs, who, like I said, aren't that with the right management in place and the right, the being pointed in the right direction, a couple of tweaks to the squad, more creative players, getting that squad to believe in in what you're trying to do. It's not. He turned Burnley, who were the most boring team in the Premier League. He turned them around to like a really good footballing team. Although, be it in the Championship, they actually play really good football now. We're the most boring team in the Premier League now. But like, Everton. Wow, yeah. But like, so it can be turned around. So, he could do that. Like I said, I've sort of like watched some bits and pieces on him now. Yeah, it is early, but I'm so fed up of what we've been witnessing the past 5 years, the coaching and everything. I just cannot wait for something new. I just cannot wait.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like the thing is, what experience does Pochettino have?
Yeah, something new's needed.
Yeah, sorry, Craig. Pochettino had experience at Espanyol and
no, you can.
But he only had a year at Southampton, right?
Yeah.
It was only a year, am I right? Yeah. Okay, Company had time in Belgium and he's had a year at Burnley. It's not radically different, is it? It is different, I know, but he's going to command respect because it's Vincent fucking Company. He's won the Premier League. Everyone knows who he is. If the players aren't willing to respect him, then they need to piss off, basically, don't they? I think, funnily enough, we started struggling. We did our best on the Pochettino recently when we had a former centre-back as our manager. Company's used to be a centre-back. Maybe we just have to be managed by centre-backs. Conte was a central midfielder. Mourinho didn't really play professionally.
Let's get a centre-back in.
Get a centre-back in to sort out the back line. Maybe that's
So Craig, sorry, mate. So Craig, because you're obviously usually hosting and I help you along, before we go to Becky to get her answer, who do you want to be our new manager? I think his internet's playing.
Is that a question for me, Gibbo?
It was, but you're a little bit behind, mate, or your cat's arseholes in your face. Yeah. So who do you want to be? Oh, Becky.
Well, you asked me that. I don't know. I've said this last week. I don't know enough about managers. So that's why I always say Poch, because he's the only one I know anything about. But I just want someone who makes me enjoy going to watch Spurs. So
do you not go on YouTube, Beck? Do you not spend your time traipsing around YouTube looking at managers' tactics? I thought everybody did that.
I didn't even know who Nagelsmann was. I don't know that Postecoglou fella.
Do you not just sit on Wikipedia looking up managers and reading?
I asked Jack. If Jack's heard of them, that's usually enough. Yeah. No.
Adrian knows. Look, that's what we need to be doing. He'll back whoever's appointed as new manager. He wants just his old to dare is to do Spurs back. We're all with you, Adrian. That's what
absolutely
I'm after, mate.
But you see, this could be brilliant content for everyone. I teach Becky how to play Football Manager. Who wouldn't want to see that? This seems like brilliant content, doesn't it?
I'm quite happy being oblivious and just sort of enjoy what I see and take it as it is. Take it as it is. If it's enjoyable to watch, great. I have no sort of expectation, really. They could have been good somewhere else. I just want to see attacking football. If they're not, and I don't want to hear them say, "Oh, we do this because I've done this before and it worked." Either that just shows how inflexible managers can be. So, yeah,
I'm with you. I completely agree. Completely agree.
That a good place to end?
Yeah, you back to hosting now, Craig? Have you?
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah, just on the manager thing, by the way. I know your company. I'm Becky Poch. I'm still of Angie from Celtic. I still think he offers something really good to us in terms of his style of play and his personality and what he brings to the club. I think he'd be a really big personality that we need. And then outside of Ange, I'd have to go for Slot, I think. I know there's issues about whether he wants to come or not, but in terms of the football and everything that he brings, I think he'll be the second one. I don't think any of them will cut. Well, not that they would come. I think both would come in terms of coming to Tottenham, but I do think it will be Company from everything that I'm being told and everything I'm hearing from, apparent in the nose and everything else. It's going to be Company. And I think it'll be announced quickly as well.
Good.
Let's hope so, mate, eh?
Let's finish on now. Nice positive.
I was going to say, we all seem a little bit more positive than we were at the start. We've had a lot of people watching, loads of interaction. I feel a little bit better than I did at the start, actually.
This is what this Monday night therapy is about, and I'm sure we'll be doing the same thing next Monday night. After the.
Is everyone else on the panel sure there aren't any other difficult feelings they would like to talk about? I mean, it's a safe space relating to Spurs. But to everyone,
I've got school tomorrow.
To everyone in the comments, even the people who think I'm an idiot and a twat and disagree with me, lovely to hear your input. I appreciate your comments. And yeah, swearing does make me a big man. Whoever said that, I don't care.
No, it's been a good show, and I appreciate all your input and everything as always. Last thing to say, just before we go, we're back on Wednesday. Gibbo and I are back on Wednesday. We've got our normal Wednesday night rambles. I'm not sure who we've got on. Yet.
I think we've got John and Dave, so there'll be plenty of talk about Donna Cullen's son, about the F1 track under the stadium, the NFL teams, mention a company's house, whatever that is. So there'll be plenty of that going on.
You know that John fella, I bet he has if he has a son, I bet he's really good looking, I have to say.
No, apparently he's a right douchebag, he tells us.
Oh, yeah. All right. Cool.
All right, then, guys. Well, let's leave it there. Last thing to say is, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you
fucking Spurs!